Castlevania Lords of Shadow Mirror of Fate is not only a pile of words, it's Mercury Steam's first attempt at a portable Castlevania game. Created in the style of Lords of Shadow on the PS3 and 360, the game has an orchestral soundtrack, a focus on combat, a heavy emphasis on spectacle over substance, and seemingly unfinished cutscenes.
I have carried this small piece of mirror since I was a boy. It is said it comes from a magical mirror.
The core problem with Mirror of Fate Lords of Shadow Castlevania is that its combat isn't deep enough to really engage players. To illustrate how shallow the combat system is, here's a diagram with Lords of Shadow Mirror of Fate on the left and Metal Gear Rising Revengeance on the right. Mirror of Fate has 8 different combo chains and Rising has 17. Worse yet, this is the only weapon in Mirror of Fate and one of a few in Rising. Additionally, the RPG mechanics are almost non-existent, which would have added a much-needed substance to the combat. On top of all of this, Metroidvania-esque flares come off as soulless reasons to recycle content. The game takes place across the stories of 4 different Belmonts, which is more like 3 because one of them is a 6-minute tutorial. But really, it's more like 1 because they all control the exact same. The main difference between Belmonts is which 2 sub-weapons they have and what forms they can use. Each Belmont has an equivalent to Gabriel's light and dark magic dichotomy from Lords of Shadow, which itself was the Devil Trigger from Devil May Cry split in 2. Alucard has a wolf form which can open wolf doors and do more damage in combat. He also comes with a mist form which heals him if he teleports through enemies. Teleporting otherwise doesn't heal him. I'm not sure how getting enemies moist heals him, but whatever. Simon has the Spirit of Belnades, which prevents taking damage at the cost of MP, and the Spirit of Schneider, which shoots enemies occasionally. By the end of the game, it all feels painfully stale, and the last switch to Trevor was a large disappointment in that his was a carryover from a prior installment. Simultaneously, though, it's the one that comes closest to having a real effect on gameplay, so in that sense, it's an improvement over making enemies moist and the Ghost Archer. Ghost Archer! Still, character variety is at an all-time low, and you will feel like you're playing through the whole game as one character. In a Metroidvania-like style, Lords of Shadow Mirror of Fate Castlevania will sprinkle new abilities in as you play along. Most abilities, though, are ridiculously shallow ways to allow you to access new areas and have little impact or purpose outside of that. Wolf form lets Alucard open wolf doors, and mist form lets him go through mist doors. The tip of the vampire killer allows Trevor to open doors in one of the least finished looking QTEs in the game. The Spirit of Belnades prevents Simon from taking damage from the majestic ectoplasm waterfalls of the Deadly Waterfalls. The Spirit of Schneider shoots this thing that will burn down this rope and instantly kill you otherwise. It lacks the feeling of awesomeness that you get at the end of a Metroid or a Metroidvania game, which lends to the feeling that you've barely made any progress at all. This stagnant feeling is exacerbated by a plot that's two-dimensional and thinks it's being coy. You'll see the plot twist, if you can even call it that, coming from about 1/4 into the game, but it will still act like you have no idea until the very end. Cutscenes aren't even visually enjoyable, as they seem more like storyboard cinematics for a CGI company than an actual finished product. The cutscenes clash weirdly with the visuals of the game and are oftentimes laughable and confusing.
What sorcery is this? No. No! Show me more, damn it!
The real clincher is that the game's remarkably unpolished. It runs at a miserable frame rate that almost never touches its 30 frames per second cap. The artistic style makes it difficult to see in even a marginally well-lit room, let alone outdoors. You know, outdoors. It's that place where portables let you play video games. Oh well, it wouldn't have lasted long anyways. The audio production is also botched, with characters being virtually inaudible over music and cutscenes, and the in-game soundtrack actually clips and sounds like it's blowing the 3DS speakers. I can't think of another game that does this. I can turn it down to half volume and it still blows the speakers. Sure, it sounds alright on my headphones, but that's not the issue. The entirety of Lords of Vania Castle Wolf Doors screams that Mercury Steam didn't want to make a 3DS game, and then didn't custom tailor the title to the platform at all. I wasn't surprised in the least when I read that the game was designed in much higher quality on a computer and then downscaled and ported to the 3DS. That's the sort of approach that produced the countless terrible games on the PSP. Castlevania is a loveless product shoved out to a demographic expecting something entirely different. It attempts a style over substance approach, but the lack of polish and artistic direction renders it flaccid. The game takes 7 hours to beat, 9 to fully complete, and it's a tiring and vapid turd the whole way through. As this review uploads, I'm on my way to trade it in less than a week after I bought it. As such, we here at GigaBoots.com give it a 2.2 out of 10. Could it have been worse? Yes. Would nothing have been better? Yes.